Nigeria is already growing up for 2027, and at the heart of our democracy is one powerful tool, the voters card. In just 2 weeks of the continuous voters registration exercise, INEC says over 2.5 million, 2.5 million Nigerians have pre-registered online. Osun State leads with over 474,000 registrants, followed closely by Lagos and Ogun. But here's the big question. Does a surge in voters registration automatically translate into better governance? Or are we simply counting numbers without building trust in the process? Well, this is where I welcome you to Politics Uncensored, where we tell the truth as it is without filters. Today, we will dissect not just the figures, but the implications of how voter participation strengthens democracy, the controversies trailing Osun's numbers, and what this means for governance and leadership in Nigeria. Our goal will always be to provide a platform for open and honest discussions where experts and everyday citizens like yourself can share your perspectives and insights. Of course, your favorite show, and we have two expert guests who will be joining us very soon. I'm your host, Okikiola Taiwo Jalukon, and you can call me the poly-humanitarian, and I'm here to make political discussions accessible to you all. I want to hear from you because all of our episodes is all about you, so be a part of the conversations every Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays to add your voice to these discussions. You can also head on to our YouTube channel at Official Upgrade TV, hit that subscribe button, like, share the link, and invite your friends and family to join the show right now. Our phone lines are also open to you. You can call us on 070-2500-7749 and 070-1424-2420. Let's hear what you have to say. We'll go on a break right now, and we'll return with our guests and take our top stories in the political space making headlines. So do not go anywhere. We'll be right back shortly. You are still watching Politics Uncensored, and today we are discussing voter registration, our participation, and its impact on governance. According to INEC, in just 2 weeks of the 2027 continuous voters registration exercise, over 2 million Nigerians have already pre-registered online. And one of the leading newspapers reported that this surge reflects a renewed interest in the electoral process, particularly from young people and women. Another news source breaks it down further, saying Osun State led the registration drive with over 474,000 new pre-registrants, followed by Lagos with 355,000 and Ogun with 265,000. The Southwest, in fact, accounts for the majority of registration so far. But while the enthusiasm is encouraging, controversies have also emerged. Some political actors question whether Osun's unusually high numbers are realistic or if they point to manipulation. INEC, however, insists these figures are consistent with past trends when Osun also topped registration charts. So on one hand, we see millions of Nigerians eager to exercise their democratic rights, but on the other hand, there are growing questions about transparency, credibility, and what all these really means for governance in Nigeria. And that's why today's conversation is important. My first guest is Esther Eme, who is the head of public affairs and publicity, voter education and publicity at INEC Lagos State. She will help us understand INEC's role, the process of registration, and how the commission is building voter confidence. We also have Nick Agule, who is a public affairs analyst, who also give us an independent perspective on what these numbers mean for Nigeria's democracy, the controversies, and the larger question of governance. You're welcome, Esther. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you.
Okay, going straight into the political news brief for today. I'd like your opinion. It is said that Osun is currently leading in terms of voter registration, online voter registration. What is your perspective about the controversy around, many other political actors saying that the numbers are manipulated and they don't necessarily account for people who have actually registered for the election?
Is the question to me?
Yes, Esther, it is to you.
Okay. We got that press release from, I don't know, I've forgotten the political party. I think whether it's African Democratic
Yes,
Congress.
the ADC, absolutely.
And a press statement was released. A press statement was sent out that same day by the Honorable President Electoral Commissioner of Finance, Lagos State, Professor Ayabami Salami, counteracting that. And I believe every question or every issue raised was addressed by the press release statement from the Honorable Resident Electoral Commissioner. INEC operates in a transparent manner, and the results, the figures are there on our portal for all to see. Like the press statement states, it's all as a result of a tech-savvy population from women and all the activities that goes on the INEC registration portal. There is no manipulation of figures anywhere. That's what that press statement said.
Thank you very much, Esther. So do you agree that we are now experiencing a renewed, I don't want to use the word renewed because it has sort of become a cliche word for people who support or do not support the current administration. But would you agree that this is a new breed of people who want to be involved in the electoral process? Or would you say that
INEC, one of
enough, ensuring that people are very well aware of their rights to vote, and also encouraging that people are very well aware of their rights to vote, and also encourage, electoral participation, and that has resulted in the high numbers that we have? Or you have a different perspective to this story?
Thank you very much. That's what has been really to my co-panelist. So it is good news to hear that voter registration is on the upswing. It's definitely good news. That's what we want. We want a participatory democracy where Nigerians will be involved in not only the recruitment process for our leaders, but also through the governance process in throughout the 10 years. However, the biggest voter education that we can give the electoral process is to make the people's wishes come true at the ballot box. For so long as we're not doing that, we can perhaps beat our chest to say that we are seeing an upswing in the number of people coming forward to register. I mean, people come forward to register for various reasons. Some of them just want an ID to go on the bank account. So some of them are registering with the hope that perhaps when the 5,000 naira shared during elections comes, that they will be able to also get their own share of it. We will want to see electoral outcomes reflect the mood of the people. So long as that is not happening, then it's very difficult. You look at, I can give a certain, if you look at Canada, for instance. The ruling party in Canada was coming fourth in the polls in the run-up to the last election. And then the prime minister decided to step down since it was obvious that he was leading his party to an electoral defeat. And in came a former central bank governor of Canada, who also is the former central bank governor of the UK. Yeah, and incidentally, it happened that in the US, which is kind of that's southern uh, um, neighbors, had a Donald Trump coming to power. And Donald Trump was then talking about tariffs, talking about all of this, disrupting global economies. And Canadians felt that in the whole lineup of the candidates for prime ministership, central bank governor is the man that stood the best chance to be able to counter Donald Trump's economic shenanigans. They voted for him. The election counted. So from the fourth position in the poll, the man won elections. So you can clearly see how the people's wishes come through at the ballot boxes. This is not happening in Nigeria. You clearly see leaders who have delivered nothing to Nigerians, that have delivered pains, poverty. And then elections happen, and you clearly see. In fact, you will see in Nigeria that in any election where the people's wishes come true, you see them out in the streets jubilating. Like you look at what happened in Rivers State in the last weekend, where a single local government in the state is said to have had when in the last governorship and presidential election, I didn't even have that kind of numbers for the whole state. So long as doubts are support electoral, you're going to see voter activity because a lot of people don't matter. Might happening in local governments all over the country. If a governor is a member of the party, the local councils in that state are now going to be from that party. I'll give you an example like in Benue State, where I come from. Governor Otom was a member of he won the election on the platform of the APC. All the local councils in the state were APC. When he now went over to the PDP for his second term, all the local councils in the state became PDP. I mean, are the people that daft? Are you saying APC? All the local councils in the state were APC. When he now went over to the PDP for his second term, all the local councils in the state became PDP. I mean, are the people that daft? Are you saying, killings and all of that perpetrated by two parties? These two parties were terrorist organizations. And so they now told the Nigerian that, sorry, you are a member of terrorist organizations, and by Canadian law, we can't give you asylum. So that is the extent to which elections have been taken in Nigeria. But the election become war. So long as this is happening, I'm not sure we're going to make any much progress with getting voters back to the ballot boxes.
Thank you very much, Nick. The network didn't let me get the full context of your contribution to this story, but yes, thank you for that. But my contribution or response to this story, that's bringing us back to voters' registration. It's beyond the controversies and the narrative that either of us have rightfully decided to express, is the importance that voters' registration must continue. And it's important for voters to start to know that they have to start exercising their rights beyond complaining, beyond the problems. Get yourself registered, get yourself registered either physically or online. The platforms are very open. So we'll go on a very short break and, of course, return with our hot topic for today. So do not go anywhere. We'll be right back shortly. Thank you for staying tuned. If you just tuned in, we are discussing voters' registration and participation and its impact on governance. Of course, our phone lines are still open to you. You can call us on 070-2500-7749 and 070-1424-2420. Of course, I still have Esther and Nick here. I'm going to take my question straight to Esther. INEC has reported that over 2.5 million pre-registrations in just 2 weeks. Osun tops this chart with nearly 500,000 registered, more than Lagos. Many Nigerians are now starting to ask, how was this possible in such a short time? Right now, I want Esther to sort of walk us through the process and why Osun is leading. So, please, in your explanation, you could, explain the CVR process, what it means to register online, what it means to register physically, and so far as I've read, Osun's history of strong numbers.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. I would want to say that I will just focus on Lagos. I wouldn't want to talk about Osun. I am not INEC staff of Osun State. I am in Lagos. So I will say Osun figures for them to answer for, but I must tell you, even as the chief press secretary to the commission has answered, there's been a press statement to that effect, giving reasons why and strongly validating that whatever figures you see, that's what they are. There is no manipulation anywhere. Now, coming down to Lagos, a lot of activities go on online. The online registration, which started on the 18th of August 2025, is basically for those who have not. In fact, online registration, you can achieve anything there. You can do transfers there. You can update. Peradventure, you had an error in the previous card that you have. You can also do a transfer there and all that. And all this amount to the number of activities going on our portal as concerning online registration. So for the online registration, for those who just turned 18 or those who are 18 and somehow they are 18 and above but have never at any time registered, to make it easier or to take advantage of the digital technology, you are encouraged to go online. The website to go to is www.cvr.inecnigeria.org. As a new registrant, to put in your details, you'll be asked to take a picture with a straight face. You'll be asked to take a picture smiling. All this is for you to be recognized, for your details to be taken. Then it is not the end of it. You still need to go to come to our centers at various local government INEC offices at the local government, and there's even one also at the state headquarters where you will complete the registration. Now, for people who have issues of transfers, who have moved from where they were living before, who have lost the card, or whose pictures were not properly taken in the last one, all this can be achieved online without having to come to the INEC office. Coming for completion is only for those who are registering for the very first time. So that is it. You can actually effect a transfer from your previous place to the new place where you are living, where you would want to vote online at the same portal, the same website, www.cvr.inecnigeria.org. Because I remember we visited a particular local government. We saw so many people, and from the look of things, most of them, we feel that these ones have registered, but some just want to be there. Because the truth, yes, there's online, but if you know there's no one to help you with, that means you are not so conversant with digital technology, with your phone, you can come to the INEC office and they will help you. Why INEC has designed online registration or come up with the idea is to make it easier, to shorten the time people spend when they come for actual capturing. So if there are still issues that people have, they cannot do it by themselves or they don't have someone to guide them, you can still come to the INEC registration centers that are scattered over INEC local government offices and one at the state headquarters. So that is it about the continuous voters registration that is going on. Thank you.
Esther, I like how detailed you are about voters registration and how easy it is to get yourself registered online, and also the ease of having to be there physically. I think that was one thing INEC did that I would highly, commend them for. The process of transfer was, in the past elections, one of the biggest issue we had with the electoral process, where a lot of people complained about they have moved from, let's say, Lagos to Ogun State, but they are still registered, in Lagos, and that prompted them not to be able to vote in certain elections. So it's a strong position that Highness has taken, to make transfer easy, and also for new registrations to go on as easy as possible. But then, Nick, you have heard Esther's layout of INEC's position, but from a political analyst perspective, these numbers, if I'm going to be speaking personally, look possible. We have over 200 million Nigerians. Most are within the voting age. But do you think that, as ADC claims, that's something unusual happening in Nigeria? I want you to talk about maybe historical trends that we must have had, APC currently versus the opposition, because everything is now centered around people saying that the APC are the ones tampering with this number. But let's remember that INEC is on paper and supposed to be an independent body. So what exactly would you say about these numbers, and how would you address the credibility issues that are going on currently in the news?
Yeah, thank you very much. So fundamentally, we can begin to look at the independence of INEC itself. Like in INEC. Independence is INEC. And the conversations have been had for a long time regarding constitutional amendment to try and give us an INEC that is truly independent. Because as it is said, who pays the piper dictates the tone. As we have today, INEC is a parastatal under the federal government. And in our democracy, we have 3 tiers of government. We have the federal, we have the state, and we have the local government. And now we have the federal government. The president appoints INEC chairman and his federal commissioners, even though they go to the National Assembly for clearance, but because the president, who himself can also be a candidate in an election, appointing the INEC team, ab initio puts that independence in question. And so the conversations have been had on how do we appoint INEC teams in Nigeria, and just the judiciary appointment, let the people vote for their INEC chiefs, and all of those kind of things are on the table. Now, if you look at a place like the US, where we copied our democracy, they don't have an INEC in the US. There is no National Electoral Commission in the US. When a presidential election takes place, it's each of the states and counties electoral bodies that conduct the elections in their states and counties. So you will even notice that there are differences in how the elections are conducted, depending on the laws of the states where the elections. So that way, we're not having national elections in the hands of one INEC chairman who can decide to do with the elections as he wants. So kind of things that we should think about. Really make INEC to be independent. Now, coming to the registration process specifically, as you mentioned, yes, it's good that INEC has provided an online registration portal. I am a beneficiary. I can confirm that my voters are registered to vote in Delta State when I was working in the oil industry. And since my retirement, I was able to transfer my voter registration from Delta State to a polling unit in my local government. And I did that online. And it was only to collect the actual PVC, the card itself, that I had to show up to collect it. But again, when I voted in the last election, the last federal elections, I went to collect my PVC, and then I went to vote. Of course, when I went to vote, my biometrics were taken. In addition to my PVC that was inside the card reader. But there is something that INEC needs to do, because there are a lot of people who could not vote because they did not have their PVCs. So since the card reader is able to read our biometrics, why is INEC still insisting that you must present a PVC before you will vote? Why don't you just go put in your thumbprint, or they take your the card reader recognizes your biometrics. It must be you. It can't be anybody else, because God Almighty has made it such that biometrics are so unique to every individual. So why is INEC not making it that easy? Then, of course, the other thing is that why is INEC even putting a deadline to the collection of voters' cards? Why can't I even collect my voter card on that same day and walk to my polling unit and in the elections? So these are the kind of things that we need to be talking about. And of course, we have the constitutional review process ongoing. We would like to see changes, and these changes need to be pressed by INEC. Like, number one, there has to be electronic transmission of results made mandatory, because INEC stood on that to say, oh, it's a guideline, it's not part of the electoral law. Why wouldn't it be part of the electoral law? So that as results are declared at the polling unit, the results are transmitted automatically to the server, and Nigerians can see the results. So, like in my own polling unit where I voted, once they transmit my result to the server and I go in and check, and everything is in line with what was declared at the polling unit, I have become like a returning officer. And if all of us become our returning officers all over Nigeria, then it's a matter of taking our calculators and adding up the votes, so that the shenanigans that happen at the collation unit will no longer happen. So we would like INEC to put in the same rigor, the same efforts as they are doing in voter education, in registering people, into what happens after the people have registered, how easy it is for them to vote. And then when they have voted, to ensure that their votes have counted.
Nick, you have raised very strong concerns and points, and I remember very well that a lot of people had issues with not being able to collect their PVCs before election day, and when they were able to make it to the polling units, they could capture their biometrics, but there was still a case of insisting to get, a physical voter's card. I'm sure Esther would give her own take on that, but some of these concerns that you have raised is where the tension really lies. Nigerians are very excited to register, but there's also very deep suspicion, especially after the 2023 election. Like you mentioned, INEC's credibility was very questioned by local and even international observers. So if voter registration figures themselves become controversial, do we now start to risk, further eroding public trust? Like, I've seen it on Twitter Space, I've seen it on many Facebook groups, and many, a lot of bodies are talking about the last election. And looking into 2027, there's also been so many stories surrounding the people who have publicly said that they want to run for office in 2027. Some of the consultations that have been happening, some of the coalitions and the transfers here and there that has been happening. So do you think that we are now risking further eroding public trust? I would like Nick to answer, and then, of course, I'll take the question of what INEC could do to ensure that we don't necessarily have a physical card, you know, to be able to vote in the next election or elections to come?
Because truth be told, INEC's credibility has been questioned, and rightly so. For instance, if we take the example of the 2023 general elections, for the presidential election, which held on the same day with the senatorial and House of Rep elections, INEC say, oh, for the presidential election, we have server issues. But the cyber issue did not impact on the senatorial and House of Reps election. So, you know, it could have been true, but it's strange, you know. So for me, INEC has a lot of work to do. And for me, it's not just by them talking and giving us assurances. We really need them to deliver credible elections. Look, if there are credible elections, Nigerians know that the election is credible because you can clearly see the results reflecting the will of the people, the mood of the people. You will understand that clearly. So the best that INEC can do for Nigerians to justify their existence and to demonstrate to us that they are presiding over elections that are credible, are fair, and reflect the mood of the people is for them to do the right thing always. You know, I know that there are a lot of challenges that INEC faces. For instance, INEC is not in charge of security, right? INEC is not in charge of infrastructure like the telecoms in terms of, you know, whether the server is going to respond or not. But we consider all those things as risk. And INEC as the electoral body needs to manage those risks in such a way that despite those risks, they will have mitigation in place to be able to deliver quality elections. You know, elections shouldn't be war. Like in the UK here, where I'm speaking to you, elections happen on Thursday, you know, and the polls open uh, from 8 a.m. in the morning, or I think 6 a.m. in the morning, thereabout, to 10 p.m. at night. So when people are leaving to work, they can just branch into their polling unit, cast their vote, and then once it's at 10 p.m., the polls close. You need to see that results start coming in with no time. INEC has a way of keeping results overnight till the following day. And it is during that night that sort of things happen in those collation centers. INEC needs to be very, very transparent with us. And that is the only way that their credibility will continue to be respected in the minds of Nigerians.
Thank you, Nick. Esther, could you chip in? I've been itching to hear from you.
I want to get it straight. What exactly on is it on what he's been saying about voting without PVC?
Yes, I'm just asking the possibility of that, and also if you could also chip in INEC's credibility during the last election, your own perspective about it, and what INEC could be doing differently in 2027.
Okay, I will say I will just dwell on what you asked me to speak on, which is about registration. But keeping that, INEC is the body established by law, the Electoral Act 1999 Constitution. So till it's revised or changed to say that one can now vote without PVC, then that's when we can start doing that. For now, the Electoral Act stipulates that anyone who wants to vote must come to the polling unit with a PVC. That's what the Electoral Act says. So if ever there's going to be voting without a PVC, it has to be when the Electoral Act is revised one more time, just as they've done for 2022. And I want to add that the Commission still stands for consolidating our democracy and making our votes count, despite what we may, everyone may say. Is striving to get things done better, and that's what INEC stands for. Whatever thing we do, we stand on what the Electoral Act says. Thank you.
Thank you, Esther. So let's go on a short break, of course, and then return, still diving deeper into this conversation. So do not go anywhere. We'll be right back shortly.
Nigeria, by extension Africa, battles a growing youthful population and with little or no meaningful engagement leaves a ticking time bomb on our hands. We are a blessed continent with great wealth, both in people and material. Our focus on ways remains driving conversations that affects us all. Topics in the news, social concerns, politics, leadership, governance, empowerment, resource management, conflict management, finance, SME sustainability, technological innovation, food security, health, education, brain drain, our well-being, citizenship, and much more. Our goal is to continuously drive these conversations, keep them burning at the table to effect a positive change, both for our nation and continent. Ways, what are you saying, has a secret ingredient that completes the conversation every single episode, and that ingredient is you. Our past conversations shaped our yesterday. To shape our tomorrow, we must keep talking. So, I want to hear you. Be a part of our live conversations Mondays through Fridays. And let's all have our say.
Welcome back. You are still watching Politics Uncensored, and of course, we're discussing voters' registration, participation, and its impact on governance. Of course, Esther and Nick has been given their own insights, quite different perspectives, but that's the essence of these kind of conversations where we can, educate ourselves on the things that matter, some of the things that are going wrong, some controversies, and what we can do better. But now I'm going to be talking to Esther on voter education, which she's very passionate about. The last election, or these current voter registration, if I'm going to be talking in the present, registration has been more prominent amongst young people and women. So what exactly is INEC doing to ensure that registration drive translates into actual voter turnout on election day? Many times we see that there's a huge, number of people registering to vote, but on election day, the turnout is always quite sad, beyond the violence and, ballot snatching and everything. Especially during the local government elections, we don't get to see people actually come out to vote, especially even women, and young people on those days. So how exactly would you say INEC is changing that status quo where we can now see that registration drive starts to translate into actual voter turnout on election day, and not just, impressive statistics about how many people have voted or have registered for election, for future elections, definitely. Do I have Esther
Okay,
here?
I want to first point out that, when you mention local government, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I said I want to point out that INEC does not handle local government.
Yes, absolutely. I know that that was just an example of part of the scenarios where we see low voter turnout, and that's why I particularly picked that example.
Okay. Okay. Voter education is a continuous thing, and INEC is doing her best to see that we reduce the voter apathy. And this we can't even do just on our own. That's why we liaise even what they're doing is a part of voter education, because by the time you talk about these things and people hear it and get to know the need for them to get involved, it's all voter education.
Absolutely.
So we liaise with media houses, like we have a national interconsultative committee on voter education and publicity. In that body that is talking about the national level, we have the NYSC, we liaise with them, National Orientation Agency, even the National Union of Journalists, NTA, and Nigeria Radio Corporation. All these are involved in this particular body of the National Interagency Committee on Voter Education and Publicity. They work hand in hand with us to see that the messages are carried down to the grassroots, to see that it won't just end in registration, that it will also show forth in people coming out to vote. So it's a continuous thing. We will not relent in talking, we will not relent in giving people the assurance that when they come out to vote, their vote will count. And when they register, it will also take in account of. So it's a continuous thing. We will keep doing what we're doing. Even on the local government levels, we have voter education desk officers. So it's not just from the state office end or from the national headquarters end. It is brought down even to the local government level. And each time we get to CDCs, we get to specialized groups like the PWDs to see that our message is passed on to the grassroots. So it's a continuous thing. And I know that this time around, the voter apathy, if not eliminated, will be brought to the lowest, barest minimum.
Thank you very much, Esther. So, Nick, you have heard what Esther have said. I'm very concerned about the fact that youth and women are leading this registration surge. I'm excited, but also very concerned because I fall in the line of, both as a woman and also as a young person. And over 60% of registrants are young people, and more than half are even women. If this trend continues into 2027, what do you think this could mean, for Nigeria's governance? Do you think that we could start to see a real shift in leadership and maybe accountability in that sense? I'm going to be running again in 2027. This is more like an official announcement, and I've run in 2019 and also in 2021 in order to contribute to my own community. So if we are seeing this kind of trend, and shifts happening with registration, do you think that we can start to see real change in leadership and accountability, especially when it relates to governance in Nigeria?
Certainly,
can Nick hear me?
It's a positive momentum to see the youth. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely.
Can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely. Please continue.
You can hear me, okay. Okay, yes, okay, fine. So, like I said, it's very positive to see that there is a record number of youths coming forward to register. And that's very important because Nigeria is a Nigeria of the future for them. Whatever we're doing today is building a future for them, the youth, the young people. And they need to come in strong to be part of that process so that they can position themselves to take over from our generation that is on our way out. So, and if you go to other geographies, it is the young people of those countries that actually are very politically active, and they decide who their leaders are, because for every election, every constituency, and when I mean constituency here, I mean in terms of the population dynamics, those who are working, those who are in school, the physically challenged, the disabled, these are constituencies that have their different needs. And these needs have to be on the table. So they need to look at which of the candidates is offering them the best deal as far as their needs are concerned. And then it is with their voters' card that they are able to stand behind such a candidate. So the youth coming forward to do this, for me, is heartwarming. And also for the women. You know, there are more women in Nigeria than there are men. And if the women are supportive of each other, you could have won your election the first time you stood in 2019. If the women say, look, we have had men coming and we have never seen progress, let us now try our own folk and see what they can deliver. You would have won your election very early in the morning on the election day. But that doesn't happen. And it's important that women are now coming forward in larger numbers. And we hope that they will now be looking at the candidates that have the best agenda for women and put their votes for them. But there is work for INEC to do, to be honest. Like I said, the youth can come forward now, the women can come forward, they can register in their numbers. But if INEC does not deliver an election that is credible, we are most likely not going to see those voters step forward again in another election. And then just before I give way, I also want to say that as good as INEC is doing a lot of work in voter education to bring in unregistered voters to the voter register, the voter register itself needs to be cleansed. There are a lot of people, I believe, who are already not alive, but are still on that voter register, you know, and that to me also contributes to electoral turnout. So if you say 2023 election registered 30% or less in voter turnout, it's because we are trying to divide that number of people who turned up over a total number of registered voters, a huge number of whom are not even available again. They are not here anymore. So INEC needs to take steps now to cleanse the voter register so that we can truly see the number of voters who are alive, who can come forward to vote. And based on that, we'll be able to determine if voter turnout is even as bad as it is, or maybe it's even improving.
Thank you very much, Nick. Esther, we are wrapping up the show in a few minutes. Would you like to give your pattern short, maybe coming as a representative of INEC? You could also narrow it down to Lagos State if you so wish.
Okay. As I pattern the comments, I want to respond to collection of PVC. Anyway, I've stated that we follow whatever activity we're doing is based on the Electoral Act. There is a specified number of days that collection of card ends. But one of the issues we have with Nigerians is just like this registration is going to last for a year. It's ending August next year. We have Nigerians who will not just bother till the last minute. So even the cards that are being talked about, if I tell you there are people who abandoned the 2011 PVCs with us till date, they are there for collection, but they just don't want to collect it. You can imagine, with all the announcements, with all the voter education, with all the jingles, some Nigerians don't just bother. Some will register and leave the cards with us. And some will wait till the dying minute. Meanwhile, we work with what the Electoral Act says. There's just the time that card distribution ends. Likewise, this registration is all in the Electoral Act. Now we have said it will end in August. You'll find people to do the registration and they'll now be crowned. And at the end, there will now be stories of I wasn't allowed to register. My part of lastminute.com, like someone said it. Let us do whatever we have to do while there is time. Let us not wait for the last minute.
Thank you very much, Esther. Nick, could you give us your parting shot as we wrap up the show?
So my parting shot is that I listened to Esther, a senior INEC official, and you could clearly see that from what she's saying, INEC's hands are tied by the electoral law in many respects. It's possible that you can vote with only your biometrics, but the electoral law doesn't agree to that. It's possible that you can register closer to when the election will happen, but the electoral law does not agree to that. It's possible that you can upload your results after voting to the server, and electoral law does not agree to. So the electoral law now seems to be like a hindrance instead of a facilitator of quality elections. So we expect the National Assembly to try and remove these bottlenecks that the electoral law is constituting, so that the elections will become a joyful event for voters. It will be made, life will be made very easy. Why are we spending money printing voters' cards that people are not picking up for more than 10 years? Just take the production of voters' cards, and people just go use their biometrics on election day, and they vote. So we save the money. And for me, INEC has a law of
Thank you very much, Nick. We have run out of time. Thank you so much, Esther and Nick, for your insightful contribution and your enlightenment to Nigerians and even governance at large. For me, voters registration isn't just about collecting your PVCs. It's also about the power of the people and the power that lies in governance. It's about citizens choosing the direction of governance. Today we've seen, the hope of millions of Nigerians, especially youth and women, rushing to register. But we've also seen the challenge, the controversies, the suspicion, and the shadow of 2023 still hanging over us. So for democracy to thrive, INEC must start to uphold transparency. Political parties must stop treating registration as a weapon, and citizens must not just register but show up and vote. Because at the end of the day, good governance begins with the power of your PVC. This has been Politics Uncensored, and of course, I am the polyhumanitarian, and I demand that Nigeria counts every life. Until next time, stay engaged, stay informed, and never let silence be complicity. Before I go, to ensure you subscribe to our YouTube channel at Official Upgrade TV. You can interact with us further. I'll see you again on Friday. Goodbye.